Namaste and welcome. Today we come to 3 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita that I think were written for people exactly like us. I'll tell you why in a moment. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever had the feeling that God lives somewhere else? That the real thing, the real devotion, the real culture, the real belonging is back there, in a house you visit every few years, in a temple you can smell before you can see, in a language you speak a little more slowly each year. And that here, wherever your here is, a suburb in New Jersey, a flat in Wembley, a house in Mississauga or Melbourne or Munich, you're keeping a photocopy of something. A good photocopy, but still a copy. If you've ever felt that, then chapters 10, 11, and 12 are going to be very kind to you. Because the 10th chapter answers the question where the divine actually is. The 11th chapter shows us how vast it is and puts every one of our worries into a scale that frankly changes them. And the 12th chapter answers the most practical question of all. What if I can't do the full thing? What if I can't meditate, can't wake at 4 in the morning, can't read Sanskrit, can't be the devotee my grandmother was? That 12th chapter, I promise you, has an answer that will take a weight off your chest. And along the way, I'll tell you some stories. Some are old, some are about people like us, people with 2 passports, 2 accents, and a small ache they don't always mention. So come, sit comfortably, take one slow breath, and let's begin. The 10th chapter is called the Chapter of Divine Glories, and it works in an unusual way. Arjuna asks Krishna to describe himself, to tell him where he can be found, what forms he takes. And Krishna answers with something like a poem. He begins listing. He says, "Among lights, I am the sun. Among rivers, I am the Ganga. Among mountains, the Himalaya. Among trees, the sacred fig. Among priests, the chief priest. Among warriors, the greatest warrior." He goes on and on. Of speech, he says, "I am the single syllable that begins everything." Of seasons, I am the flowering spring. Now, at first hearing, this can sound like a list of Indian things, and I think that's exactly how many of us have received it, as though the divine has an address, and it's roughly the shape of the subcontinent. But then, at the end of that long list, Krishna says something that reframes every word of it. He says, whatever is glorious, whatever is mighty, whatever is beautiful anywhere, know that it has come from a spark of my splendor. Anywhere. And then, as if that weren't enough, he says, with a single fragment of myself, I hold up this entire universe. Do you see what has happened? The list was never a catalog of locations. It was a way of teaching us how to look. He picks the highest, most beautiful, most excellent thing in each category and says, there, that's where you can see me. And then he tells us the principle behind the list, that excellence and beauty and vastness, wherever we find them, are sparks of the same fire. So he is not the Ganga instead of the Mississippi or the Thames. He is what is holy in flowing water. He is not the Himalaya instead of the Rockies or the Alps. He is what is vast in a mountain. And the earlier line, the one that ties it all together, he gives even before that. He says, he is the self seated in the hearts of all beings. Not in the hearts of some beings, in one country, in all. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy, 8 years old. born in a hospital in Columbus, Ohio, to parents who had arrived from Pune 11 years earlier. Every third summer, the family flew to India. And for that boy, those summers were when the world became real. His grandmother's house had a small shrine in an alcove near the kitchen, and the whole house smelled faintly of the incense from it. In the mornings, there was a bell. There were flowers on the floor. Someone was always cooking, and someone was always visiting, and the temple was a 10-minute walk away, and the sound of it carried into the street. Then, every 3rd August, he came home to Ohio, to a house on a quiet street where nobody was visiting, where the shrine was a shelf in his parents' bedroom closet, opened on Tuesdays, where the temple was a 50-minute drive down the interstate, past a Costco. And one December night, he was 8, and it was cold, and he was homesick for a country he had lived in for a total of maybe 9 weeks. He said something to his father that his father never forgot. He said, "God isn't here. God's in India." His father didn't argue with him. He didn't give him a lecture. He said, "Put your coat on." They went out into the backyard, in the snow, in that particular blue silence you only get on a very cold night, and his father pointed up at the moon. He said, "Do you see that?" The boy said yes. His father said, "When I was your age, I used to sit on the steps in Pune and look at that. It's the same one. Nobody moved it when we came here." And then he said, and this is the part the boy remembered 30 years later, "You think we left God behind at the airport, but who do you think brought us? Who do you think has been sitting inside your chest this whole time, all the way over the ocean? He didn't stay in your grandmother's kitchen, Beta. He was in the seat next to you." You see, that father was teaching his son the 10th chapter without ever naming it. The divine that only exists in one postcode is a very small divine, and it is not the one this chapter describes. The Gita's claim is enormous, that the same presence is seated in every heart, and that every glorious and beautiful thing anywhere is a spark of one fire. So the incense and the bell and the grandmother shrine, those are precious. They are how love takes shape. They are how a whole civilization hands something down. Keep them. Teach them to your children. But don't confuse the vessel with the water. There's a second, quieter gift in this chapter, and I think it speaks directly to our community. If Krishna is what is excellent in each thing, then excellence itself becomes a way of touching the divine. Now, I want to be careful with this, because our community has a complicated relationship with achievement. Many of us grew up where being the best was the whole religion, where a report card was a moral document, where the grandparent's sacrifice was quietly converted into pressure and handed to us at 15. That kind of striving is not what I mean at all. That's anxiety wearing a graduation gown, and we've spoken about it before. But there is something else, something cleaner, and this chapter points right at it. I want you to think about a woman, a cardiac surgeon in Chicago, in her 50s. Her parents came from Kerala in 1979. Her mother was a nurse who worked nights for 22 years. She isn't especially religious in any way her mother would recognize. She doesn't fast. She goes to the temple twice a year, and mostly for the food and the aunties. She has, if she's honest, some unresolved feelings about it all. But there is a moment in an operation. She has tried to describe it and can't quite, when everything else falls away. There is no her. There is no ambition, no fee, no reputation, no fatigue. There is a heart in front of her, and there are her hands, and there is a kind of
total, silent attention that she has never found anywhere else in her life. Not in yoga, not in prayer. There. She said once to a friend, "That's the only time I feel like I'm being used for something." Now, I want you to hear the Gita's response to her, because it's not what a scolding tradition would say. Krishna says he is the intelligence of the intelligent. He says he is the skill in the skilled. He says whatever is excellent is a spark of his splendor. And in an earlier chapter, he says something even more direct. Whatever you do it as an offering to me. Which means that surgeon has been at worship for 25 years without knowing what to call it. And this is such a liberating idea for our generation, so many of whom are engineers and doctors and coders and small business owners and teachers, and who quietly worry that they've drifted from their tradition because the rituals got thinner as the years went by. Your work, done with total attention, honestly, for the good of someone else, is not a distraction from devotion. Done in the right spirit, it is devotion. The lamp in the closet on Tuesdays is beautiful, and so is a heart repaired on a Wednesday. And Krishna adds a promise here that I love because it's so practical. He says, "To those who are constantly devoted and who worship with love, I give them the understanding by which they come to me." Read that again. You are not being asked to figure it all out by yourself with your imperfect Sanskrit and your borrowed books and your 40-minute drive to the temple. Show up with love and the understanding is given. That's the deal.
Now we come to the 11th chapter, which is unlike anything else in the Gita, or honestly, in world literature. Arjuna has heard all these descriptions, and he does something very human. He says, essentially, show me. If you are truly all of this, let me see it. Let me see your real form. And Krishna says, you cannot see it with these eyes, so I will give you divine eyes. And then Arjuna sees. What follows is one of the most overwhelming passages ever written. He sees a form with countless mouths and countless eyes, blazing like 1,000 suns, containing every world, every god, every being that ever was. He sees all directions at once. He sees no beginning, no middle, no end. And then, this is the part people don't expect. He becomes terrified because he sees all the warriors of the battlefield, both armies, all those men he knows by name, rushing into those blazing mouths and being consumed. He sees them being crushed like moths flying into a flame. And he asks, shaking, "Who are you?" And Krishna answers with the line that has echoed for 5,000 years. He says, "I am time, the destroyer of worlds." Now, many of you will recognize that sentence, and not from a temple. You'll know it because a physicist in the New Mexico desert, watching the first nuclear test in 1945, said that a line from the Bhagavad Gita came into his mind, and he rendered it, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Oppenheimer had learned Sanskrit. He had read this chapter, and because of him, this is probably the single most famous line of the Gita in the Western world. But I want to gently correct something, because the popular translation slightly distorts it. The word he translated as death is kāla, and its primary meaning is time. That's a very different sentence. I am death sounds like a threat. I am time, the destroyer of worlds, is simply a description of reality. Because what actually destroys everything? Not some cosmic villain. Time. Quietly, continuously, without malice. The mountain, the empire, the language, the body, the memory of you. Time takes all of it, and it isn't even angry while doing it. That is what Arjuna is seeing. He is seeing the machinery.
And here is why this matters so much for us, and why it isn't only frightening.
Let me tell you about a man in Toronto, 41, good job in finance, 2 children, a decent life he worked hard for. Every Sunday morning, he video calls his mother in Hyderabad. It's a ritual. He props the phone against the fruit bowl and drinks his coffee while she tells him about the neighbors and asks whether the children are eating properly. And one Sunday, he noticed something. She had got up to fetch something from the next room, and he watched her walk. And she was slow. Not ill, just slow. In the way she hadn't been the last time he really looked. And her hand went out to the doorframe for a second, the way his grandmothers used to. And it hit him, standing in his kitchen in Toronto with his coffee going cold, that he sees his mother in person for about 10 days a year. And that if she lives another 15 years, which is the good outcome, the lucky one, then the number of days he has left with his mother is not a vague, comfortable cloud. It's roughly 150 days. 150 days. He could count them. That, my friends, is the 11th chapter arriving in an ordinary kitchen. That is a small glimpse of time as the destroyer of worlds. And it is terrifying, exactly the way Arjuna was terrified. But notice what it did to that man. He didn't fall apart. He booked a flight. He moved the Sunday call from a quick chat to an hour. He started asking her questions he'd never asked about her childhood, her father, what she'd wanted to be. He started recording the calls, quietly, because he realized one day her voice would be a thing he no longer had.
That's what a true confrontation with time actually does when we let it in. It doesn't paralyze us. It reorganizes our priorities in about 4 seconds, faster and more permanently than any amount of self-improvement advice. This is the strange gift of the 11th chapter. Every one of us in the diaspora is living a version of this vision. We chose distance, usually for good reasons, for opportunity, for our children, sometimes because there wasn't a choice at all. And distance and time together have a very particular arithmetic that our parents' generation, living in joint families down the same lane, never had to do. So do the arithmetic. It's frightening for a minute, and then it's clarifying. Call more often. Ask the questions now. Record her voice. Take your children to meet their grandparents while there are still grandparents to meet, even when the flights are expensive and the leave is inconvenient. You will never regret those weeks. You may very much regret their absence.
Now here is the part of chapter 11 I find most tender, and it's often skipped. After seeing the cosmic form, Arjuna does 2 things. First, he apologizes. He says, "Forgive me. All those times I called you casually. Hey, Krishna, listen, my friend. When we were joking or eating or lying around, I didn't know. I treated the infinite like a mate." And second, and this is so human it makes me smile, he asks Krishna to change back. He says, "I have seen enough. Please, show me the form I know, the one with the crown and the flute, the friend I traveled with. Be that again." And Krishna, without any reproach, does exactly that. He returns to the familiar, gentle human form and comforts him. He tells Arjuna not to be afraid and not to be confused. Now, why is that so important? Because it says something profound about how human beings actually relate to the divine. We can't live with the cosmic form. It's true, it's magnificent,
and it is completely impossible to have a relationship with. Nobody has ever wept with gratitude to a blazing, multi-mouthed infinity. Nobody has ever felt held by cosmic machinery.
What we can love is a face. And this, honestly, is why our tradition has all those forms: the flute player, the mother, the elephant-headed remover of obstacles, the one who breaks bad, the one who blesses. Not because the divine is small enough to fit in them, but because we need a doorway. And a doorway has to be human-sized. And I want to say this especially to those of you raising children far from India, and to those of you who feel a bit embarrassed by the images, a bit modern for all that. The philosophy and the picture are not in competition. Chapter 11 shows the philosophy, the terrifying, magnificent totality. And then, in the very same chapter, Arjuna asks for the picture back, and he is given it, kindly, without being made to feel childish. The Gita itself blesses your grandmother's photograph on the shelf. And at the end of the chapter, Krishna says the thing that makes the ladder of the next chapter possible. He says, "This form of mine cannot be seen through study, or through ritual, or through austerity, or through charity. It is seen only through devotion, not through scholarship, not through fluency, through love." Which is very good news if you've been quietly worried that you don't know enough. And now we come to the 12th chapter, which is short, and which I think is one of the kindest things ever written. It begins with Arjuna asking a genuinely useful question. He says, "Some people worship you as a personal form. Others worship the formless, unmanifest absolute. Which of them has it right?" Krishna's answer is famously practical. He says, "Those who fix their minds on me with devotion and faith, I consider them the best. Because the formless is real, but it's extremely hard for a human heart to hold." But then, and this is the great gift, he doesn't stop there. He builds a ladder. He says, in effect, "Fix your mind entirely on me. That's the first and best way. But if you can't do that, then reach me through practice. Keep returning again and again, and you will get there. And if you can't manage steady practice either, then simply do your work for my sake. Let your actions be for me. And if even that is beyond you right now, then just do this. Give up your attachment to the results of what you do. Start there. That's enough. Do you understand what has just happened? The divine has just said, tell me what you can manage, and we'll start there. There was no entrance exam. There was no minimum standard. There was no come back when you're serious. He offers 4 different doors at 4 different levels of difficulty, and he explicitly blesses the easiest one. I don't know how to tell you how unusual this is. So much religion, in every tradition, works by raising the bar and making you feel disqualified. This chapter lowers the bar to the floor and says, step over, anywhere along here. Let me tell you a story about someone who needed to hear this. There's a woman in Edison, New Jersey, 38, 2 children, a job she likes, a mother-in-law who lives with them, and is mostly a blessing. For about 4 years, this woman felt like a spiritual failure. It started when she went to a retreat weekend, and everyone talked about their morning practice. 40 minutes, an hour, before sunrise, and she went home determined, set an alarm for 5:15, and sat down on a cushion in the corner of her living room. Her son woke up.
Then she remembered the school forms. Then her mind produced in perfect detail an argument she'd had at work in 2019. She lasted 9 days. Then she stopped and quietly filed herself under not a spiritual person. Her grandmother had been a spiritual person. Her grandmother sat for an hour every morning and knew hundreds of verses by heart. She herself was a woman with a lot of tabs open. Then someone read her the 12th chapter, and she started to cry, not from sadness, from relief. Because the third rung of that ladder is, just do your work for me. And she looked at her actual life. She makes food for 5 people every single day. She drives her daughter to a swimming class she doesn't enjoy driving to. She sits with her mother-in-law and listens to the same 3 stories with real patience, most days. She checks on the widowed neighbor. She is, all day long, in continuous service of other people. She had thought devotion was the 40 minutes she couldn't manage. She hadn't noticed it was the 16 hours she was already doing. Nothing in her schedule changed after that. Only one thing changed. Before she started cooking, she'd stand at the counter for about 5 seconds and say silently, "This is for you." That's it. That's the whole practice. And she'll tell you it changed her life.
So if you have been carrying a quiet sense of religious failure because you can't sit still, because you don't know the language, because your practice is thinner than your parents and much thinner than your grandparents, please hear the 12th chapter properly. You are not failing. You are on the ladder. Krishna built extra rungs on purpose, and he built them for people exactly like you. And then the chapter ends with something extraordinary. Krishna describes the kind of person who is dear to him, and it is not who you'd expect. He doesn't mention how many hours they sit. He doesn't mention how much they know, what language they pray in, how many pilgrimages they've done, or how strict their diet is. Here is his list. The one who is dear to him is free of malice toward any being, friendly and compassionate, free of the sense of mine and free of ego, steady in both pleasure and pain, forgiving, content, firm in resolve, the one who neither rejoices excessively nor hates, the one who is the same toward friend and enemy, the same in honor and in dishonor, the same in heat and cold, the one who is untroubled by praise or blame. And this line, which I find almost unbearably beautiful, the one who does not agitate the world and whom the world does not agitate. Look at that list again. Every single item is about character, not credentials. Kindness, not being a source of disturbance to other people, not being knifed over by every opinion. Forgiving, content with what comes, free of the tyranny of mine. Which means the person the divine loves best might be someone who has never read a single verse. It might be your neighbor who shovels the snow off your driveway without mentioning it. It might be the colleague nobody is afraid of. It might be the uncle at every family function who somehow makes everyone feel less alone. And uncomfortably, it means someone could know the entire text by heart, keep every fast, and still be nowhere on this list. If they are unkind, or if they cannot forgive, or if they leave everyone around them slightly agitated. The Gita is not impressed by our religious resume. It is watching how we treat people. And now, I want to end with one word from this chapter, a word I think belongs to us in a special way. In the middle of that list of beloved qualities, Krishna uses a word that translators render as having no fixed dwelling, no permanent home, not settled anywhere. And he lists it as a virtue, as something that makes a person dear to him. Sit with that for a second. There's a man, 52, an engineer.
moved to Germany at 26. He has now lived more of his life outside India than in it. And he'd describe himself on a bad evening as belonging nowhere. In Munich, after 26 years, he is still slightly foreign. Perfect German, German pension, German passport, and still sometimes the question, but where are you from? And in India, where he goes each year, he has become a guest. His cousins run their lives without him. The city has rebuilt itself around roads he doesn't know. His nephews find his Hindi a little dated, a little formal, and gently funny. Someone always says at some point, "Oh, you've become quite German."
Two countries, belonging fully to neither, and a low, private grief about it that he has never once said out loud. Now, imagine handing that man the 12th chapter and showing him that the quality he has been mourning is on the list of things the divine finds dear. Because what does it actually mean, that word? It doesn't mean homelessness as a misfortune. It means someone whose sense of self is not welded to one plot of land. Someone who can be at peace in more than one place because their center isn't outside them. And who on this earth is better positioned to understand that than we are? We know in our bodies that home is not simply a place because we've had to build one twice. We know a person can eat two cuisines, hold two accents, love two national anthems, and still be one whole self. We had to learn the hard way that identity is portable. The tradition has a beautiful word for this, the sannyasi, the one who walks away from a fixed dwelling in order to find something that can't be left behind. Now, we did not become wanderers for holy reasons. We did it for jobs and safety and our children's schools. Let's be honest about that. But the lesson is the same. Whatever cannot be taken from you when you change countries, that is what you actually are. And most of us have already had that stripped down and tested at an airport at 24 with 2 suitcases and a phone card. So if you carry that quiet ache of belonging nowhere, I'd like to offer you a reframe from this chapter, and I mean it sincerely. You are not rootless. You are portable. And in the Gita's own list of what makes a soul dear to the divine, that is written down as a blessing. So let me gather these 3 chapters into what we can carry. The 10th chapter told us where the divine is, not in one country, one language, or one kitchen, but seated in every heart and shining out of whatever is beautiful and excellent anywhere. It did not stay behind at the airport. It was in the seat next to you. And your work, done with full attention and offered honestly, is already a form of worship, whether that's a surgery, a spreadsheet, or a school run. The 11th chapter showed us the scale. It said, "I am time, the destroyer of worlds," and it was a description, not a threat. Let that in for 1 minute, and it does what nothing else can. It tells you instantly what actually matters. Call your parents. Ask them the questions now. Go while you can go. And then notice how the chapter ends, with Arjuna asking for the familiar face back and being given it without a word of reproach. The infinite is true, but what we can love is a face. Keep the picture on the shelf. And the 12th chapter was for all of us who thought we weren't doing enough. 4 rungs at 4 levels of difficulty, and every one of them blessed. Fix your mind on me, or practice, or work for me, or simply loosen your grip on the results. Start anywhere. And what the divine treasures in a person turned out not to be our credentials at all, but our character. Kindness, forgiveness, contentment, steadiness, and being someone who doesn't agitate the world and isn't agitated by it. And that one word, without a fixed dwelling, written down as a virtue, written, it seems to me,
for people with 2 passports.
So here's what I'd ask you to do this week. 1 thing, not 5. Before your next ordinary task, the cooking, the commute, the email you don't want to write, pause for 5 seconds and say inwardly, "This is for you." And then make the call you've been meaning to make, the one to the person whose voice you'd want a recording of. That's the 10th, 11th, and 12th chapters, lived in about 4 minutes of your day. Take care of yourself. Stay calm, stay happy, and stay close to the people who are far away. Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here.